Hello, I'm here again to talk about the spinal tap. As I mentioned, this has been about three and a half weeks, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that it was probably one of the best spinal taps I have had. I am not an expert, but I've probably had close to 30 spinal taps, if not over. So I wanted to mention a little bit what makes a good spinal tap from the patient's perspective. And then I am going to be doing a series of a few videos where I explain each of the things that I'm going to mention, each of the different aspects that made this spinal tap such a good one. Because I do want to go into a little bit of detail as to what it is that makes the spinal tap, or a spinal tap in general, a lumbar puncture, distinctive from the patient's perspective. This is not from the doctor's perspective. So I do want to talk about the fact that I had a good experience in scheduling the spinal tap. Things went smoothly, pretty much. Things went smoothly, especially considering this was done at the curve end of the height of the COVID crisis in the area that I live. Obviously, we're still in the midst of the pandemic, but for us in the crisis, this in the area that I live. So I will talk a little bit about that. I will also talk about arriving at the hospital. Sort of the protocol I went through was very smooth. There were obvious precautions that were in place that had not been in place before. The nurse was wonderful. In fact, I could see that service and the service to the patient was different that I hadn't received before. The doctor I knew, it was all very smooth. It was handled very smoothly. He was wonderful, but there was definitely a rapport that was deeper and nicer that had been there before. He explained everything as he has done before. I mean, like I said, this is an interventional radiologist. This was done under fluoroscopy that had been done before. The same room, same everything, but it was simply just done with a subtlety, a smoothness that had not happened before. Then I went back to my room, same nurse. And it just, I rested for a while and then came home. This time I did not get, even though I believe it's protocol, I did not get a phone call after the spinal tap. I laid completely flat. We're talking completely flat. I think my pillow, and I have a pillow that I use for these occasions, is about yay thin. I only would get up for going to obviously for using the restroom and for eating, and we're talking at the beginning I only ate in sitting up in bed, but I kept very strict rule of laying flat because I was actually very concerned that I would have to return to the ER and having to have a blood patch, which is actually very common for me because of all the spinal taps that I have had to do. Having a blood patch is very common, which means going into the ER and having an anesthesiologist do the procedure. As you probably know, during this time of the pandemic, having an anesthesiologist do a procedure is riskier. And so I wanted to protect myself as much as possible, and my doctors wanted me to proceed with caution. So I laid extra flat, extra long. I believe on the 6th day, I don't believe, I know, but I want to leave things open because every person is different. So I don't want you to feel that you will have to sort of follow my protocol. But I believe on the 6th day, I got up, went to the bathroom, and started to feel that I could manage a little more. So I sort of started testing the waters. And I had a low pressure headache at the beginning, but by the 6th day, it was pretty much gone. I still have some lower back pain, even 3.5 weeks after, which is unusual for me. But it is not unusual considering that I have had so many spinal taps that my back has been creamed. This is not the doctor, the interventional radiologist. This is just my back. Poor thing. So like I mentioned, I will be doing further YouTubes on each of the different factors, elements that I have mentioned, but I wanted to let you know I will be discussing things like the results and everything else. But yippee, a successful spinal tap. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be closing this in a low note, but yes, the high pressure headaches have returned. The day that they returned, it was a low point. They always do. I can't get used to them returning. There's always that, ounce of hope, but they have returned. So here we go again. It was great to have a relief of symptoms, but here we go again. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to many more of these. That's always a good sign. Thank you. Bye-bye.